Assalamu alaikum MCC community. My name is Shameem Aadam. I was asked on behalf of the MCC Health and Awareness Committee to create a short video on the basics of vaccines. My hope for this video is that for those of us in the community that aren't healthcare professionals, this gives you a better understanding or a brief overview of vaccines, how they work, and the different types that are out there. So what is a vaccine? A vaccine contains either a killed, weakened, or a part of the bacteria or virus that causes a disease. It stimulates your immune system to produce antibodies exactly like it would if you were exposed to the disease. You develop immunity to that disease without having to get the disease first. The advantage of a vaccine is that unlike most medicines that are used for the treatment or curing of a disease, vaccines truly help prevent the disease. So how does a vaccine work? The immune system is complex, there's many steps involved, but this graph really helps give you a simplified view of how a vaccine works. So when you first receive a vaccine, your body develops what's known as a primary immune response. It's a slow response and it's not very strong, but what it does is allows you to create those antibodies or memory cells. Now, if you're exposed to the bacteria or virus again, your body kicks in what's known as a secondary response, which is a much stronger and more rapid response than that first primary response. And what it does is it kills the bacteria or virus without you experiencing any symptoms of that infection. I did want to point out that right here during that primary immune response stage, just after the vaccine, is when you may experience some mild symptoms such as a mild fever, aches, or tiredness. I know most people feel like the vaccine caused them to get sick. But what actually happens at this point is this is your immune response. This shows that your body is building immunity against the disease. So the different types of vaccines. There are four main groups of vaccines right now. The first one is a live attenuated vaccine, otherwise known as the live vaccine. This contains a weakened form of the bacteria or virus. It does provide long-term or lifelong protection. And a good example of this type of vaccine would be the MMR or rotavirus. If you remember, you probably had this when you were much younger and didn't need to have repeated doses. The inactivated vaccine contains either the kill or inactivated form of the bacteria or virus. It doesn't provide long-term protection and it may require a booster. A really good example of an inactivated vaccine is the flu vaccine. The subunit recombinant polysaccharide and conjugate vaccines. This is just a really long term for a vaccine that contains specific pieces of the bacteria or virus. This does give your body a good, strong immune response. And a good example of this one would be the shingles vaccine that is commonly given to those over 50 or the hepatitis B vaccine. Lastly, there's a toxoid vaccine. Now, what this does is uses the toxin produced by the bacteria or virus. It usually requires a booster, and a really good example would be the tetanus vaccine. Their recent technology and recent research has developed two different other types of vaccines. One is known as a DNA vaccine. This vaccine isn't actually available for human use. It's mainly used for animal use right now. The second one, which is of more interest, is the recombinant factor vaccine, or a platform-based vaccine. You probably heard a lot about this vaccine recently because this is actually the technology used by Moderna and Pfizer for the new COVID-19 vaccine. This vaccine actually behaves very similar to the actual infection, and it's beneficial in teaching the immune system how to fight that virus or bacteria. There are other companies that are working on a vaccine using the other types of vaccine systems, but those are still in the trial phase currently. So what is this new mRNA vaccine? This vaccine doesn't actually contain any form of the virus or bacteria like those others that contain either a weakened form or inactivated form. This actually, what it does is contains information that teaches our cells to create a protein or a part of the protein that is similar to that on the virus or bacteria, and that helps trigger that immune response. This technology has actually been studied for a while now, for a number of years. Moderna was using it for the Zika virus, but when the pandemic happened, they switched gears and began trying to use it for the COVID-19. So how does this vaccine actually work? So this vaccine contains small pieces of genetic material called the mRNA. And what this does is gives instructions to your cells to create a very harmless piece of protein known as the spike protein. Now, as we know, the coronavirus has these spike-like proteins on the surface, which gives it that crown-like structure that we've commonly seen with the coronavirus. Now, once the mRNA creates the spike-like protein, the cell then destroys that genetic information. And then this spike-like protein is recognized by your body as a foreign object. So then your body creates an immune response to the spike protein, and it begins to recognize and respond to this spike in different ways by creating antibodies and memory cells. So now your body has learned how to fight the COVID-19 vaccine without actually having to experience the COVID-19 symptoms. So in future, when you're exposed to the virus again, your body will recognize the spike protein that's on the surface of the coronavirus, and your immune system will quickly begin to destroy the virus and prevent you from getting sick or experiencing severe symptoms. The benefit of the mRNA vaccine, like most vaccines, is that you're protected against the infection without having to risk the serious consequences of getting sick, especially with regards to COVID-19. So in summary, the vaccines allow your body to learn how to protect itself against future infections. And this protection or immunity is achieved without experiencing serious consequences of the actual infection. And like I've said before, vaccines truly are what helps us prevent a disease or an infection, unlike other medications that are used for treatment or curing of a disease. I hope this video was helpful in learning the basics of vaccines and a brief overview on how vaccines work. Jazakallah for your time.